Hi guys, and today we're going to be working on a fall project. So I'm going to be using some IOD molds that I ordered and a sunflower mold. There's two sunflowers on there and some leaves. And I'm also going to be using the new IOD for foliage mold. So I'm going to be using amazing casting resin to make my molds, and this resin comes in, it comes with, I'll be using these little measuring cups, but the resin does come with smaller cups. And what you do is the resin comes in two parts. It comes in a part A, and it comes in a part B. And so what you do is that you pour equal parts in separate cups, and then you pour those two cups into one container. And that's what you're going to see me doing here. I'm pouring part up. Sorry, whoa, before anything, I completely forgot. It is a must to wear gloves when you're working with resin. If it gets on your skin, it will be very irritating to your skin. So please always safety wear gloves, be in a well ventilated area, or even outside. Anyway, I pour my first part into my little cup, and then I pour it in the big container that I have, and then I go ahead and do the same thing with part B. I make sure that it's equal parts of both part A and part B. Once that's done, I pour those two little cups into the big container, into the bigger container that I have there. And as you can see, when it starts out cloudy, but as you're stirring it, it starts to become clear and you'll feel it warming up. You have to do this a little bit quickly, because this resin sets up really fast. Carefully and quickly go ahead and start filling your molds like you see me doing here. I always take like a little craft stick and just make sure that I've hit every nook and cranny of my molds, just to make sure that it's all filled in. And I'll be doing this with all the molds that I'll be using for this fall craft. As you can see, as I'm stirring to make another batch, you can already see that my pumpkin starts to set up. This resin is very, very fast. It sets up in 10 minutes. So if you have a lot of molds to make, then this is a good route to go. So that you're not waiting around for hours and hours for your molds to set up. Okay, so my molds are all set, and I'll be showing you what they look like. That's one of the leaves from the pumpkin mold. And by the way, IOD molds are the best to work with. I absolutely love working with their molds. They're so easy to use. They have a lip around them so that removing the molds when they're set is perfect. The next thing that I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to start painting all my molds. And guys, for this part, trust your process. I'm going to be using FolkArt Rich Black. I'll be using FolkArt Imperial Red, Waverly Moss, and Waverly Truffle. All those are the chalk paints that I'll be using, but I'll also be using acrylic paints, yellow and orange. And I just mix until I'm happy with the colors that I'll be, wanting. And my theme is a fall theme, so even though it's going to look like pea soup at one point, it all does come together at the end. I trusted my process. I just kept on mixing my colors until I was happy with the end result. Really, that's all I did for this part. I just kept mixing colors, and it took me a little while, but that's okay. Eventually, I end up with what I want. So because I don't want you to hang out with me for 40 minutes while I do all of this, I'll be seeing you guys for the next part. Once I was happy with the colors that I ended up with, I can now start painting all my molds. This is going to take me a little bit. So again, I will be seeing you guys when all of these are painted and we can move on to the next part of the craft. And voila, like magic, everything is done. And here's all my molds. They're completely painted. I'm very happy with the result and the shades that I ended up with. So the next part that I'll be working on now is that I'll be working on my frame. So I'll show you guys really quick. Just a couple of pieces so that you see what they look like. I think they came out really cute. I'm very happy with the colors that I ended up with. And I did mix and I did mix quite a few times just to get the right colors for this. So the frame. So this frame I got at Hobby Lobby, and look guys, it was $19.99. I got it for $4.99. So I was really happy. But the back is like that paper backing. So I'm not going to take that off. I'm going to leave it alone. And what I did was that I took the inside of the frame and I put painter's tape on there for the next part that I'm going to be doing. For this part, I'm going to be using Waverly chalk paint in the color moss and FolkArt farmhouse white and a piece of candle wax. I'll be distressing this frame. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'll be painting the outside of this frame. Actually, no, the first thing I do is I take my gator sander and I sand the whole thing. Just because it's that shiny, frame. And I wanted to make sure that my paint was going to stick on there. So I went ahead and sanded that part first. Now I'm just using my little magic vacuum. So I cleaned off all that dust that I made when I was sanding. So now that it's all sanded and roughed up, I can go ahead and start painting. So I'm going to go ahead with my Waverly Moss chalk paint, and I'm going to go ahead and paint the whole front of the frame and the sides. Okay, so now that that's all done, I'm going to go on and dry it with my heat gun, and that has to be completely dry before I move on to the next part, which is I'm going to be applying the wax to the whole frame. The front, the sides, and the inside part of the frame will all get wax. That's going to be part of the distressing process. Now that I applied the wax to the whole frame, I'm going to take my FolkArt Farmhouse White chalk paint and I'm going to give the frame one coat of this chalk paint. Once that's done, I go ahead and dry it really good with my heat gun, and then I take my scraper and I lightly start scraping all the sides of my frame. And as you can see there, it starts to get a really nice chippy look. When I'm done scraping the whole frame, I then take my gator sander and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start sanding this frame one more time. And what this does is just blends in that chippy look And it gets rid of any loose paint that you have on there from scraping. So I'm going to go around the whole front of the frame and the sides and the inside of the frame just to blend everything in. Now I'm going to go ahead and take off that painter's paint. The painter's tape. I'm going to go ahead and remove that from the inside of my frame because the next part is painting the inside of the frame now. And the color that I'm going to be using for this part is Waverly chalk paint in the color truffle. That's what it's looking like so far with the chippy look. I'm going to be using this burlap, so I'm just having a thought about it. I'll be using this later on. But I just wanted to, it was just a thought that I had. So, moving on here. I am going to start painting the inside of the frame in the Waverly chalk paint color truffle. Once that's done, I go ahead and dry the inside of the frame completely dry. And now, guys, comes this part. These are some fall transfers that I got from Redesign with Prima. But I have to talk to you guys about the process that I went through. It's been a really wet, rainy, humid day where I live. I'm just showing you some of the transfers that I'm going to be using. They're beautiful, by the way. They're beautiful. So I start cutting them out, and I'm going to be applying these on the outside of my frame, on the outside front of the frame. But I don't know if it was the weather, because I did have a hard time drying everything today. It took me forever. Even with the heat gun, it took forever to dry everything on this frame. When I started to apply my transfers, they gave me, and it wasn't the transfers. It wasn't the transfers. It was the paint. It gave me such a hard time. It took me about an hour just to get all these done. The paint kept coming off with the transfer. I had to keep laying the transfer down, going over it with the transfer stick to adhere it onto the frame. It was just a really long time headache where I thought I'm going to ruin all my transfers, but by the luck of God, it didn't happen. It worked. So here we go. Here's all my transfers. I love them. The frame looks really pretty so far. So I am going to take my Mod-podge and I'm going to go ahead and seal the whole outside of the frame. That's going to keep my transfers from getting ruined. And since they gave me such a hard time to put on there, I don't want to take chances. So I'm just applying Mod-podge to the whole thing just to seal it really well. Okay, so that's done. The next part is I'm going to take this rope. I got this at the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to be attaching this rope to the inside of my frame. I just wanted to give the inside of my frame a border with this rope. I'm going to be using my hot glue gun to go ahead and put it on there. And I'll go around all the edges a little bit at a time and start attaching that rope. Okay, now that that's all done, and I have that rope on there, that's what it's looking like. I am loving the frame. It gave me a hard time, but the end result is absolutely beautiful. So now I remember that burlap that I was thinking about. So I decide that I do want to use it. So I just trim it up a little bit and I put it in the middle of my frame. I just wanted to give this just another like little, like farmhouse country look. So what you see me doing here is that I start arranging all my molds inside the frame. I always, when I have a lot of molds to work with, I like to arrange everything first. I think about it, I contemplate it, and make sure that I am happy with the way that it's all going to look. Once I am done putting everything where I think I want it, and I might change it here and there. I might not be happy with, the way it looks, so I'll change one or two things. But what I do next is that I will be taking, after I have everything arranged in there, I'll be taking my Dixie Belle Best Dan Wax in the color brown, and I'm going to be hitting all the edges of everything, all my molds, with that wax. And what that does is that it just gives it a nice distressed look, just to make the whole thing, feel vintage and older. So somehow it cut out the part where I show you the wax that I used, but it's by Dixie Belle, and it's called the Best Dan Wax, and it's in the color brown. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm going over all the edges of all my molds with that wax. I do offset the brush in between. You don't want a lot of wax on there. You just want to give it, an edge, a defined edge to everything. You don't want loads of wax on there. I forgot to mention that I did take my sunflowers and I did cut them in half because I wanted them coming, like out of the edge of the frame. So I did forget to mention that. And I did that as soon as they came out of the mold. I just took my X-Acto knife and I cut them in half. Sorry for not mentioning that before. I am now ready to start attaching everything to the frame. So once again, I take everything off. And the first thing I'm going to do actually is that I'm going to take Titebond Thick and Quick all-purpose wood glue. And I'm going to attach the top edge of my burlap and the bottom edge of my burlap. Not the sides, just the top and the bottom. I just put a thin strip right at the edge, and I go ahead and lay it down on my frame. I'm just gonna hit my pumpkin just one more time. It just needed a little bit more wax on the edges. And by the way, when I was applying the wax, I went over all the edges, but I also went over the top of everything. I just lightly brushed everything on the top with the brush. Okay, like I said before, you don't want a lot of wax on there. You just want to give it like a slight distressed look, just to make it look vintage and antique. You don't want a lot of wax on there. There were a couple of pieces that I hadn't done yet, and I didn't realize it after I'm doing the voiceover. So what you actually see me doing there now is that I'm finishing up applying the wax to the rest of my molds. So, sorry. Okay, so now that everything has been waxed, I'm going to take my Titebond and I'm going to start attaching all my molds to the inside of the frame. Once again, is Titebond Thick and Quick all-purpose wood glue. It is the only thing that I use when I am attaching my molds to anything. I found that hot glue does not work for molds. And I've had one too many times where I've been selling one of my pieces at a craft fair, and it has come apart on me because I've only used hot glue. So I no longer use hot glue. I only use the Titebond. It's the only thing that keeps it on there really well. And what you see me doing here is that I take a little brush and a wet wipey, and I just go around all the edges of my mold just to clean up whatever glue seeps out or excess glue on there. And there we go, guys. There's the completed project. I love it. It is absolutely beautiful. Once again, thank you for hanging out with me. Hope that you guys enjoyed this crazy tutorial. And I will be seeing you next time. Bye.